number 5 series of the seminar that called Cracking the Bamboo Ceiling. I couldn't remember the first one we had, but I have a lot of handout here, and Judy's going to go over that with me. But first, yes, this is number 5, speaking to others with confidence. We had the first one, yes, presentation skill. Second one, yes, and had a conversation, at the work and the play, and then resolve the conflict. And this one, and then also the business advocate. And then this one is speaking with others with confidence. And then the last one will be March 13th, which is how to receive and provide a constructive advice. So I imagine this one here and the next one should be all useful here. Okay, and then first, welcome, and thanks for coming. And today is really a interesting day. It was Los Angeles Marathon.
Yes.
And Carl, and Judy, and I we decided not to run the marathon because I thought this is more important, and we'd love to be here. Of course, you want to run that after this.
That's right.
Yeah. And the second one is a Valentine's Day, and then we have prepared some cookies, some things here, and all the light refreshment for you. And let me introduce first Judy. Judy is with the Well Associated. Judy is the one who helped me to put all the programs together. Thank you very much, Judy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dankai. And welcome. How many of you have been here one of the other seminars that we've held? Oh, good. 4 or 5 of you. And we'll probably still get a few people coming in. I know we had about 20 register online, so they're probably running into the LA Marathon traffic, or maybe they went out for Valentine's lunch and they're not done yet, but hopefully we'll get a few more coming in. But regardless, we're going to have a wonderful time today. How many of you were here when Carl presented the last time? Oh, okay, just a couple of you. So you're in for a treat. Carl will do an excellent job of getting you involved and having you take part in what's happening today. As Dankai said, several things are on your chair. The first one is the annual convention for CSAC, and how many of you have gone to that before? None of you. Well, this is your opportunity then, besides Dankai, he's gone. And then how many know that Dankai has a radio program? Okay, 1 or 2. So every Saturday, you can listen to him, or you can probably even join him in person. And he does that right here in this building on Saturdays.
That's correct. Exactly. The room still is in the back here.
So feel free to come and join him at one of his Saturday
Just
radio
one more point
programs.
here. The handout here, if you use the scanner, iPhone, just point that, then you can listen to that directly. We have all the historical file in that location here. All right? Just when you're ready to go sleep, listen to that.
Right. Thank you, Dankai.
Thank you.
And then at the end of today's seminar, we're going to have a presentation by Charlene Ong, who has received an award for a book that she's written. And so she'll be speaking to us just for a few minutes at the end of the day. And Dankai will do a formal invitation of her at that time. You received a couple of more handouts. This one is a must. You have to fill that out if you haven't done so. And this is primarily to say that you agree that you're being videotaped, perhaps audio taped, and it may be put up on our website. So please do that as well. And then lastly, we have an evaluation sheet. And this is the only way that we know how we can do a better job and maybe what we did well. So if you'll be sure and fill that out and turn it in to Jennifer. Jennifer, would you raise your hand at the end of the day? Appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenters for today. First of all, Carl Walsh. He's a speaker, trainer, performance coach, and he has coached speakers of all types, from high school students to Hollywood personalities. Maybe he'll tell us about that, we'll see. But he speaks to realtor groups all across the nation more than 100 times a year, and he's been doing this for several years. But before he got involved in speaking to realtors, Carl was very involved in the Walt Disney Company, in C&R Clothiers, Smart & Final, so he's been in the business and corporate world as well. Now, he spent 20 years in the theater as an actor, so you may catch a little bit of that today, too. But he's drawn on that experience from being both an actor and a business person, a coach and a communicator, and you will see all of this come together as he does his presentation today. And he was featured also in a 2012, I believe, issue of Toastmaster magazine. Now, how many of you are familiar with Toastmasters? Several of you, okay? And then Vernon, our other speaker today, learned the importance of being able to communicate in several ways. But Vernon has quite an unusual background. I want to find the right intro here because he did something that I'm sure none of you have done and probably don't want to do. But he was a former ski racer, and he was ranked 100 in the United States for the Olympics in downhill. Are you still doing that?
No.
No.
That's why he can still stand.
That's right.
But he took this competitive spirit and he turned it into his business acumen. He actually graduated summa cum laude from the University of Hawaii. He launched his own investment management business, and he continues to improve his communication skills. He joined Parsons Toastmaster Club in Pasadena. After joining that, he decided he wanted to really improve his communication skills, so he joined 3 more clubs. So I don't know when he has time to do anything else because he's in 4 Toastmaster clubs. He also has a passion for photography and many other things. And he's joined what we call the Accredited Speakers Program for Toastmasters, and you can ask him about that at the break. This is a grueling speaker presentation program where he has to do 20 outside speeches in a year and several other things. He has to perform a speech before a board of what, 8, 10 people?
Right.
So it's not an easy thing to do, but he's on track to do that. So join me in welcoming Carl Walsh and Vernon Butticher as they present Speaking to Others with Confidence.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Well, thank you, everybody. It's good to see everyone here today, especially with everything else going on. And I'd like to start out today by telling you a little story about me, about one of my first confidence crises. See, Asians aren't the only ones that sometimes have confidence crisis. I was about 25 years old. It was about the age of the dinosaurs, right? And I was working for Honolulu Federal Savings and Loan in Hawaii. I was in the planning department, working for the vice president of planning. And we had a big planning summit that day in the afternoon, and I came in really early, 9 o'clock in the morning, and the planning meeting was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I figured no one knew I was there. I could sneak in and do my work. The only one that knew I was there was my wife. All of a sudden, the phone rings. Pick up the phone, and I hear a voice. This is Mendel Borthwick, the president of Honolulu Federal Savings and Loan. The president calls me up in my office and starts talking to me. He says, "Can you please come to my office as soon as possible?" Clunk, and he hangs up. I didn't know what was going on. I was getting sick to my stomach. I was in panic. I just gathered every single report I had. See, I was a geek before they actually invented the word geek. Geek, it hasn't been around for like 10 years or something, right? So I had all these reports, each arm, full of reports. And I went running down to his office. And you know what the first thing he said to me was? He handed me a box and said, "How would you like a homemade cookie that my wife made this morning?" I went, "Yes." And that relaxed the whole situation. We had a great meeting. So the key, when you're feeling stressed out, relax. That's one of the keys to having confidence. Take it easy. The world's not going to end. Maintain your presence. Don't get too excited. It's not going to be the last time something happens that's crazy to you, right? Can you turn on the projector now? The second story probably fits in more along your lines. It's about Mark Feng, and he was a subject of an article in the Atlantic magazine. Has anyone read that article? He was a Harvard Business School graduate. At the time, he was a student, and he actually read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. Does everyone know that book? So Sheryl Sandberg is the chief operating officer of Facebook, right? And Jackie,
Jai.
okay, you haven't read, but you heard about it. So she wrote a book called Lean In for women, to help women deal with men in the workplace. And here's six Harvard business students reading this. Now, you wouldn't think that someone in a Harvard business school would need to read this book. But Mark and his colleagues, most of them were born in China and immigrated to the United States when they were 8 or 9 years old. Mark did really well, studied hard in school, got really good grades, attended all of his classes. He went to work and became an engineer. And he did really well as an engineer. He was in the back office and producing reports, analyzing for everybody, and they were really happy. Then he decided, I've got this down. He went to get a job as a consultant. That's where we really started to have problems, because he just couldn't get the hang of going in to meeting these people, these chief executive officers for other companies, and establishing a rapport with them, right? It was really difficult for him, and he just couldn't get the hang of it. So Sheryl Sandberg's book really resonated with him. And some of the questions he found himself answering yes to. Do you feel insecure professionally? Do you find yourself reluctant to speak up in meetings for the fear of saying something wrong? I see some heads nodding out here. We're on the right track, Carl. Do you watch self-assured colleagues, mostly men, probably mostly white, like me, take charge of a workplace conversation while you are wishing that you could project their easy friendliness? Are you feeling, no matter how hard you try, that your intelligence will never drive you to the top because you lack the innate self-confidence of the men around you? Can everyone here kind of relate to this story one way or another? That's why we're here. That's what we're going to concentrate on. You get top grades in school, and I feel that, correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is that Asians feel different than other groups because you've really worked hard and excelled in the area that society says if you work hard and excel at, that you should be successful, you should be all the way at the top. And a lot of times you're not making it to the top, you're hitting that bamboo ceiling, right? Well, here's one first secret. You don't have to be perfect. And if that's one secret that these people who are CEOs, they just believe that they're good enough to earn the respect. So for instance, I had lunch with some Chinese friends one time when I was going to school. And I was in quantitative finance, and half the class was Chinese, so I had a lot of Chinese friends. And I sat down with one, and he was really bummed out. He was so upset. And I said, what's the matter? And the other one was sitting down, and he goes, I got straight A's, and I got 1 B. and the other Chinese friend goes, dude, you got a Chinese F. Right? All right, I can tell by the laughter we're hitting some chords here, right? Again, it's not about being perfect. It's more about emotional intelligence. And you wonder, well, what is the importance of this secret confidence, this emotional intelligence? Because emotional intelligence is one of the 6 key confidence is one of the 6 key factors in emotional intelligence, right? And in fact, it's so important that Lakshmi Balachandra, who works for Amy Cuddy, has everyone heard Amy Cuddy? If you haven't heard Amy Cuddy, I'll give you the name afterwards. I don't know if you'll see it up on the screen, but she has a TED Talk called Fake It Until You Become It. And it's a play off Fake It Until You Make It. So Lakshmi Balachandra was one of her students, and she studied 185 venture capital presentations. Does everyone here know what a venture capital presentation is? So Google started out as a venture capital company. That means that there's two smart guys, Sergey and something else, who came up with this incredible idea for a computer search algorithm. And their professor said, I know some people who give you money to develop this further and launch your own company. Those investors are venture capital investors. And that operation was called venture capital formation. And they made a venture capital presentation. So Lakshmi studied 185 of these venture capital presentations. And what she found was it wasn't what's in the presentation that's important. What was important was the confidence, the passion, and the presence of the person making the presentation. So what does that mean? That means that when these guys from Google were making their presentation, there might have been someone else with a better Google, but they might not have gotten the money because they weren't as good at presenting the material. They weren't as passionate. So confidence equals presence, and it's about connection and emotional intelligence. Now, one of the key factors is, I believe, is this connection with shame, because that's what my friend said when we were sitting around the, oops. I guess we need to screw it on tighter. That's what my friend said when the other friend got 1B. Oh, you're going to bring shame to the family. Has anyone heard that one too? So what is shame? Can anyone give me a good answer about shame?
Embarrassment.
Yeah? Well, why are you going to be embarrassed though?
It's not perfect. Not good enough.
It's fear of separation. This is based on the work of Brené Brown. You feel that you're going to be separated from your family. Your family is going to kick you out because you didn't perform as well. And shame is deeply linked with vulnerability. And you know what the difference is between the people who are crippled by shame because they feel vulnerable, and those who aren't, and who have the confidence to move ahead anyway? Can anyone guess? I'll tell you. The difference is those who have the confidence to move ahead anyway and deal with the vulnerability just feel that they are worthy of respect even though they're imperfect. That's it. That's the only difference between the group that is able to deal with vulnerability and the ones who aren't and end up feeling shame. And this is really important because when you have shame and you start to numb the shame, then you numb all your emotions and you numb passion and everything else. So it's hard for you to show passion and enthusiasm for something if you're feeling shame, and it's hard for you to feel confident if you're thinking that you're imperfect. And the most important thing is to feel I am enough and to have the courage to be imperfect. And with that, we're going to bring Carl up, and he has an exercise for us to work through if you're feeling shame, how you get to a place where you're feeling more confident. Do you want me to turn this off?
Yeah, that's fine. Good. But before I start, talk about vulnerability in the workplace. My very first day on the job at the Walt Disney Company, now, this is one of the great companies of the world, and I thought this is one of the greatest opportunities of my life. I'm at the Disney store, at the corporate headquarters, and I go to the men's room and doing what you do in the men's room, right? And so I'm there, and suddenly this very tall man comes and stands beside me. It's the president of the Walt Disney Company. And I look up, and I notice it's him, and he looks over at me and says, "You're the new guy, huh?" "Yes, sir." And all I could think was, "Oh God, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. Just be natural, be natural, be natural." And that was it. That was our whole exchange. And the odd thing is that he and I were on a very easy communication level from that point on. And you know why? Because he just said, "Great, see you around." And he gave, not only did he have the confidence to be natural and to create a relationship in a very strange place, but he had the confidence to give me confidence. And that was a real learning point in my life. So, what we want to talk about is, just a little bit here, is the fact that we're all so afraid to make a mistake. We're also afraid to admit that we made a mistake when we do, right? And yet, isn't it true? Think about it. If somebody does make a mistake and they own up to it, don't you respect that person just a little bit more? Don't you feel that that person will always be straight with you? And you respect them for that? All right, so I want everybody to stand up. Okay? Now, here we go. Why don't you hold this just for, get that bottom there. Okay. So what I want you to do is to put your arms up like you just won the Olympic gold. All right? Yes. And I want you to say, "I failed. I made a mistake.
Louder.
I feel stupid." Now turn to the person next to you and say, "I failed.
I failed.
I made a mistake.
I made a mistake.
I feel stupid."
I feel stupid.
Turn to the other person. "I failed. I made a mistake. I feel stupid." Okay, everybody sit down.
It's hooked on that.
It is amazing how many people feel a release when they do that. They've been storing that up for so long, and they never realize how good it feels to admit, "I goofed up." And so what I want you to do after today, and it's one of the most important ways of creating confidence, is to always admit, at least to yourself, that you made a mistake. I laugh at myself all the time, and believe me, I do plenty of stuff to laugh at. And it gets me through, and it gives me confidence to go forward.
Thank you, Carl. Nice round of applause. Can't stop. Oops. Here we go. Did someone turn the projector off? There we go. Ah. The other area is that, and this was actually an issue for me too, as someone who is a mathematician and in finance, and especially studying financial modeling, because in financial modeling, you put in your numbers and they come out with the answer, right? You want to price a security, you go through all the steps, boom, you get the answer you want. You're an engineer, you want to calculate the load factor. You put in the numbers, and boom, you get your answer, and it's right. And I found that a lot of mathematicians and scientists who probably could have been great entrepreneurs sometimes have trouble dealing with the uncertainty of the world. And actually, the Navy SEALs, does everyone know who the Navy SEALs are? That's the team that went in and shot Osama bin Laden. Right. So they're an elite military force in the U.S. And they actually have an exercise. Every morning, all the recruits have to line up and have their uniforms inspected, right? And it has to be perfect. You can't have anything wrong. If you have something wrong, they send you down to the beach, and you have to roll around in the sand, jump into cold water, then roll around in the sand some more, and work that way all day long. Now, what they do is they start picking on people. And they pick on people who kind of had a cranky attitude. If you're sitting there, yes, sir, this feels good, sir, you probably won't be invited back. But if you have a cranky attitude, you can have the most perfect uniform in the entire world. They're going to send you back down to that water. And you have to go through that water again, rolling around in the sand and working that way the entire day. Does anyone have an idea why they do that?
They want to break down your confidence so you can obey the orders.
The exact opposite. Did anyone see that one movie about Afghanistan where the Navy SEALs, who was it, Mark? Yeah, no, there's another one. And they were dropped into Afghanistan. They were going to assassinate one of the Taliban. And all of a sudden, everything that possibly could have gone went wrong. And during that entire period, they stayed positive. They stayed focused, and they kept moving ahead. And that's exactly what they're trying to teach those Navy SEALs with this exercise. Sometimes you can do everything right. You can fill out those numbers in that formula. You can get all your calculations right. But sometimes things in the world go wrong. And you have to maintain a positive attitude and keep going forward. And that's what self-confidence is all about. And sometimes you can develop self-confidence in one area, such as math, but you're not so good at ballroom dancing. I'm terrible at ballroom dancing. So sometimes the confidence carries over, but when you don't have confidence, you have to have courage. And you have to have the courage to deal with your vulnerability and realize that you're not perfect and carry forward. And one of the key things in this whole process is maintaining a confident exterior. So and this is sort of a dance. The first thing people look at when they evaluate confidence, and this whole process goes back to the caveman era, right? When we were cavemen, we couldn't communicate. What did we do? We'd raise a hand to show. Why do we raise a hand? We don't have any weapons in our hand. We stand straight up. Why do we stand straight up? We're showing our heart. We're not crouched down, getting ready to attack. We're not running away. And so there's a series of body signals and body language that are attached to that. And studies show that when we make the decision, when we evaluate someone, it's 1/10 of a second. You have 1/10 of a second to make a good impression on someone. And the studies further show that the more time you spend with a person, you're not trying to decide whether or not you're wrong. You rarely change your mind. And all you're doing is trying to evaluate your first decision, whether or not that person is worth your trust. And the first thing they look at is trustworthiness, warmth in the character. And the second thing is competency. Can I respect him? Can I trust? Will he do what he says he's going to do? Does he have the skills, right? And a lot of this comes from our body language. And some of the key things we want to do is eliminate bad body language, because there's a saying that your bad habits make you. So Carl is going to help me in this area. He's going to bring all of his acting skills to the forefront, and he's going to show us poor posture. You don't want to stand like Carl when you're in an interview. Failing to match your mirror. So I have a lot of energy, and he's meeting me. and he's low energy. You don't want to do this either. You don't want to use grand gestures. I'm going to blank this out, walk past here. Hey, you don't want to be fidgeting. Playing with your ears. Let's see if we can pull this one off. You don't want to speak without authority. Have your voice in your throat.
You know, I've been working around plates, and I know my stuff.
So, no eye contact. Right. A bad handshake. Frowning. And crossing your arms. So, thank you, Carl.
Just one note on that. I don't know how many people see, I work in the real estate business a lot, and I talk to a lot of realtors, and I see a lot of their business cards with photos on them. How many of them are like this? It's meant to be strong, but in fact, it's closed off.
In the U.S.
And in real estate, you gotta have a relationship, and this says I'm not having a relationship with you. So keep that in mind.
In fact, the last time I was here, almost half the people in the room were standing like this. And for us, it connotes clothes, kind of silly clothes, and not serious. One comic that always did this was Pee Wee Herman. So it's not a serious thing. Don't stand like this, in the United States anyway. Yeah. Yeah, don't do it. Keep your hands by your side. And now we're going to go through the body language that conveys confidence, because if you want to get rid of bad habits, you can't go around saying, "Don't pull on my ear, don't pull on my ear." That doesn't work. You can't say, "Don't brush my hair," or "Don't hold my hands." The best way is to actually replace the bad habits with good habits. So that's what we're going to talk about now. And the first one is facial expressions. Now, again, this is evolved. These are facial expressions that have evolved over years. And there is no difference between China, Africa, South America, any place in the world, Europe. These facial expressions connote the same thing. The difference that they found between Asians and people of European descent, as far as these expressions, is that if you put a European in the room and give him good news, he's all by himself. You just pipe it through a loudspeaker or throw something under the door, and he thinks no one's watching. He'll, "Yay, all right," he'll celebrate, right? You put the Chinese in the room, he'll do the same thing. "All right," no one's looking, right? "Yay!" But if you put the European in the room and with someone else, like a research assistant or something, he'll do the same thing. "All right." He even might celebrate more to make the other guy feel jealous. But the Asian especially will tend to hide their celebration. They'll tend to mute it. "Okay, that's all right." So but I can tell you that these characteristics and the core pass through all cultures, okay? And the first is a slight smile. Not in all these, you don't want to exaggerate, a slight smile. And everyone has some pretty nice smiles. And the other thing is light up your eyes. It's just like a slight surprise. Like a big surprise, everyone. Big surprise, you raise your eyebrows way up, right? Well, you don't want to go up that far. And look what happens to your eyes. Look in the mirror or look at your person next to you and see when they raise your eyebrows, your eyes kind of like sparkle a little bit more, right? Now, the person in the center has a neutral. And neutral, it's not going to hurt you that much, but it's not going to get you anywhere. it's not going to come across immediately as trustworthy. Remember, you have 1/10 of a second to communicate warmth. This is the first stage. You're going to communicate warmth and that trustworthiness. Now, a frown on the other side, completely untrustworthy, right? Would you trust that guy? I mean, he's either mad at you or something. And so it's really important to maintain a slight smile and arch your eyes. Look at Betty Liu from Bloomberg News. Yeah, her eyebrows are raised. She has a nice smile, natural smile. She's engaging with her eyes. All right, now, for body language, who's the Chinese, the meanest Chinese of all that has the most confidence? Bruce Lee, yeah! That's the second part of body posture. Look at his back. It's erect. His hand is open. This one is a little bit of a fist, but it's not. It's more like naturally resting on his leg. It's not a really clenched fist. He's looking straight. He has a slight smile on his face. And one other thing, how many people here do Qigong or Tai Chi? Okay, what do they teach you in the horse stance? Your shoulder blades down, right? Let your shoulder blades rest down on your back. You can see by his shoulders that his shoulder blades are back. So when he's trying to stand erect, he's not standing like this. He's letting his shoulder blades relax. We're going to go through a posture exercise in a little bit. And so if there's one place in the world that was different from the U.S. in the 1960s, it would probably be China, right? So you would think that they would communicate confidence differently. But this is a propaganda poster. Look at this guy. He's like Bruce Lee, standing big and strong. He's got his shoulders down in the back. His back is straight. He has a smile on his face. He's got the eyebrows going, a little bit of surprise. It carries across cultures, I'm telling you. It carries so much across cultures, in fact, that someone who's born blind, if you give them a gift or something, or tell them some good news, they'll do the same thing. It's hardwired into us that when we're victorious, to make ourselves bigger, more dominating. So keep your shoulders and back straight, your shoulders down, your chin up. And this is another thing too. You got to make sure that you don't put your chin up. Keep your back of your neck erect. The closest thing I found is in Qigong. Some of the times they make you do that in the horse stance. The back of your neck erect, but also in Zen meditation, they make you have to keep your back completely erect, your shoulder blades down, and you have to look down at the floor, but keep your chin up. And eyes focus forward. This is Simon Cowell. Now, here's the tip I'm going to give you. I'm going to switch sides here really quickly. Sometimes if your eyes are forward, right, you feel like you're staring a person down. And like, wow, what am I going to do? I'm feeling so uncomfortable. He keeps looking at me. He's not moving. But what if I move like that? It kind of eases the pressure, right? I can keep talking. And if you talk back to me, I can move my head too. And it shows that I have interest. So the key is to keep your eyes forward. It's not to just stare the person down. You're not trying to enter into a stare down here. Keep your eyes forward and show interest by slightly cocking your head. Now don't go like this off to the side. Don't exaggerate. Just keep your eyes forward and move your head every once in a while to show interest. It says, I understand the situation. We're communicating. Here's the hands. it's always better to keep your hands open. Remember what we said? An open hand shows I don't have a weapon. And we've come to understand open hands as trustworthy. This person is trustworthy if he's showing me his palms. Now, some people just have difficult times with putting their hands in their pocket. And the biggest thing, can you hear? They put their hands in their pockets and they start rattling keys and things like that. And you're up on the stage, sometimes you're mic'd up, and everyone can hear you through the entire audience, rattling with your keys, rattling change. And for some people, it's such a tough habit to break, they just sew their pockets shut. That's it. And if you really have a hard time with this, one solution, and Carl doesn't like it that much, but it's better than closed hands. Yeah, it works. It works, but you can tent your fingers like this. And it kind of shows that you're thinking, it makes sense. You're paying attention to them, and you're not closing your hands and cutting off the communication with them. You see what he's doing? Here he has his hands. He has his hands like this. Just, you can stand there like that.
Yeah, that's sort of what I call the newscaster stance. So you'll see people on camera a lot who are standing like that and are presenting. And on camera, it's a really good idea because the camera's in close and any kind of hand movement can be very, very distracting. But in real life, this isn't necessarily the best place to go. But like Vernon said, if you're having problems keeping your hands out of your pockets and things like that, and a lot of us do that just without even thinking, this is a good place to go. It really is.
How about you put it together like
No.
this?
Then you're sort of clenched and in the praying position, and that doesn't work so much. But the open hands, this is a good fallback. It works. I see that. But again, the open hands tend to work. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to show your palm.
Yeah.
You want to show your palm.
Always keep in mind, one of the best ways to build a relationship, and it's evolved over thousands of years, is to show you don't have a weapon. You know, that's why we shake hands in Western cultures, which someday I bet will stop because it's a great way to transmit the diseases. But but the whole point was to show I don't have anything in my hand.
Especially talking with girlfriends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. And again, these are slight things that people pick up and they don't even realize they pick it up. I'll give you an example with my dog. I have this new border collie. And he stands out in the dog park and he goes like this. And he gnashes his teeth at the other dogs, right in front of the other dog's face. Well, the people are all freaking out. Ah, look at your dog. He's going to attack my dog. The dogs don't seem to care. So I actually took Sneakers is his name. It was the name of my dog. Took him to a dog psychologist, along with a video. Right, only in California, right? Dog psychologist. And she said that even though he's snapping his mouth like that, there's an almost imperceptible movement in his lips that indicates to the other dogs that he's not being aggressive. Okay? So there's certain movements that we all have that indicate that we're not aggressive, we're trustworthy. And that's what we have to learn. And one of them is showing your palms. The other we talk is mirroring, trust building. So if you're in an interview and the interviewer is leaning forward like this, then you want to lean forward. You want to engage and talk to him. If the interviewer is leaning way back, I don't know if you want to lean way back like that, because that would kind of, you want to stay a little bit more formal. But you don't want to lean forward and be aggressive with them. You know what I'm saying? Maybe stand straighter with a straight posture. Don't be as straight engaging in a while. and see if you can build your relationship with him and get him to start moving forward to engage with you. And here you can see a picture of George Bush and Mitterrand, and their hand gestures are almost the same. So you don't want to mimic someone, right? Do exactly the opposite like they're a puppet. Can you imagine every time you make a move, right? But adopt a lot of the same mannerisms, because this subtly says that you are trustworthy. You're worthy of confidence. Okay, firm handshake. Does everyone here want to know how to make sure you get a firm handshake? You're raising your hand. Coming up. No, just turn around. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Golden?
You want to volunteer? I'll show you. Golden. Okay, we have to. So
here?
yeah. So what you do, maybe just a little bit more this way. Okay, what you do is look right here at this part of my hand,
Sure.
and angle your hand like that. All right. And when you go in to make a handshake, don't close your hand until I tell you. See, you push hard.
Okay.
Push against that. That's a firm handshake. Now close your hand. That is a firm, good handshake.
Okay.
All right. Do you understand that?
Yes, so I'm being very, very strong. I mean,
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. Push forward.
Will I be too
Engage.
aggressive? I mean,
Yeah. No.
No? Okay.
No. You'll be, especially with a man, you'll be more respectful.
Okay.
The worst thing that you can do in the U.S., and it happens a lot when I meet Chinese men, is grab their fingers like that. They grab my fingers. Like, so how do you get a good shake? Try to grab my hand, right? It doesn't work. So
Yeah.
that's why keep your hand open like that. And when
But
you
you
go
have
in,
good
push.
connection.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Okay, let's give Golden an applause. Yes, thank you. That's it. Yes, sir.
Just a question, how about the lady?
Yeah, how about
Uh,
I mean, man to lady.
I would do it the same. Like just rip the guy's hand off. No, not that much. Here, come on. Get. So you don't have to be aggressive, but be firm. So put your, no, don't, you close your hand too soon. Keep your hand open,
Okay, hand open.
push in like that,
Okay,
and then close and shake.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. That was very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a great point, actually. This is an excellent point. One of the ramifications of the Women's Live movement is the fact that we do expect women to behave just like men now in the workplace. In the workplace. And in fact, I have been yelled at when I opened a door for somebody. So women expect it, men expect it. So a good firm handshake. It used to be, that you would do that.
Oh, yes.
That you would do that, right? Women
That's right.
would do that.
Right.
Right. No more. No more. You got to be just like the man now. You boom. Get in there. That's right.
All right. Thank you, girl. Then the last thing is a calm demeanor. And this comes with fidgeting. If you have a calm demeanor, just think, stay calm. Breathe deep. Don't get excited. Don't go crazy when the president calls you or comes beside you to do his thing in the urinal. Just take it easy. Have a nice, easygoing smile on your face. Not exaggerated. And just relax through the process. Another thing, speaking with passion. Here's an area where actually Bruce Lee is a good example. Because if you listen to Bruce Lee, I don't know if you picked it up, but in the West, he would say things like, instead of temple, he would say temple. And instead of saying rabbit, he would say wabbit. And we had a comic character named Elmer B. Fudd, and he would talk like that. So the Americans laughed. But for us, when we would hear that type of speech, we would think, he's kind of comic. But is there anyone who would ever think of Bruce Lee as a comedian? No. Why? Because when he said something, he said it with such passion and such feeling. Knowledge will give you power, but character, respect. Mistakes are always forgivable if one has the courage to admit them. And my favorite of all, do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. And when he said it, he was, even in his, when he taught, Kung Fu, you could see that he was serious, and he passed that off. And it was so strong that it overcame some of his speaking issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the key thing is to really show passion. And this goes back to where we were talking about shame. If you're feeling shame and lack of confidence, you're numbing your passion side too. You can't just numb one part of your emotions and unnumb the other. You're going to numb everything. So let it be passionate. Don't be afraid to show your emotions and how much you really like something and how keen you are on the subject. Oops. Sure.
Is there any difference between passion and aggressiveness? I know some people will show their aggressiveness as passion, and for people, they probably will feel, ugh. too much.
Okay. So the question, in case you didn't hear it, and for the people on the internet, is there a difference between aggressiveness and passion? And yes, there is a difference. First of all, if you've gone through all these exercises before that we're talking about, and you establish confidence that you're trustworthy, then when you talk with passion, it's going to come across as passionate. But if you come in first thing with a frown, that's going to come across, they're going to start interpreting you as being aggressive. So the first thing is to establish, your relationship by showing a smile and a friendly face. The second, and Carl is going to get into this later, is how you speak. Someone who's aggressive starts using a lot of wind, and their voice starts rising up here. They start talking like this. Their voice actually comes from here in their throat, right? But if you're passionate and you're really breathing right and talking well, your voice resonates down more here in this midsection. And then you can talk and really talk loudly at times and not come across. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's also a matter of intent, which is, if I'm speaking with passion, it's because I believe this. If I'm being aggressive, it's you must believe this. Whole different intent, right? But it's a thin line. It's a very thin line.
Right. Thank you. The other thing is, all of these have to line up. If you're speaking with passion, but you're kind of looking to the side all the time, you're going to come across as being insincere. So then you're going to become across as aggressive. You can't handle your feelings. You're looking to the side. You're not paying attention. You're not focusing on the person. You're not giving them respect. And that's why you're being regressive. Does that make sense? All right. Can I have 4 volunteers? We're going to have a posture workshop. Okay, there's 2 coming up. I need 2 more. Leah, 1 more. Okay, great. So let's stand over here. Kind of, what I want you to do is stand like this, so the audience can see the side of you. Yeah, everyone in a line. Yes. Let's turn this off. Okay. But swing out to the. You stay where you are. Yeah, swing out to the side and turn and face me a little bit more, so they can see us. They can see the postures in the camera there. All right. So now, this is actually something I've learned through yoga too. I'm taking yoga teacher training. So let's look at their postures. Okay, some aren't bad. But her shoulders are a little curved. Now she moved them back, right? But They're not totally straight. So what I want you to do is lean forward and bend your ankles, bend your knees a little bit, and lean forward. Now, instead of straightening your knees just by moving them back, I want you to twist your feet in the floor, twist and straighten your knees that way. And at the same time, I want you to drop your butt. Just rotate your pelvis under. Now stand up straight with the erect body. Yeah, see him, look at Golden. He really straightened out. Now, drop your shoulders down your back. Yeah, Leah, look at her shoulders, how much she's... Now, stick your neck up, extend your neck, but then bring your chin down a little bit. Yeah, much straighter, don't you think?
Yeah.
Improve posture. So I'm going to ask all of you actually to stay up here for a bit. You can relax if you want, if that's too much. So posture is really important. And that's how I would start practicing it. You can't just get rid of these habits by all of a sudden deciding that I'm going to go in for the interview, and when I go to the interview or the meeting to ask for funding from an investor, that I'm going to just change right now, and I'm going to talk with a straight posture. But then when I go back to my house, I'm going to just sit like I normally sit, right? That's not going to work. We're not actors. If you're an actor, maybe you can pull it off. So you have to do this all the time. Make it a part of your everyday life to develop these good postures. All right. Now, what I want you to do is, let's see. I want you to have a pose like this. Put your legs out straight. Have a straight posture, and turn it slightly a little bit more to the audience. Okay, I want you to hold your hands up like this, like a victory celebration. Feet a little bit out more. And you will do the Wonder Woman pose too. Put your hands on your hip, feet a little bit wider. And for you, Leah, I want you to put your arm out and keep your bottom palm down like this. But your feet a little bit wider in a strong posture. Okay? Now I'm going to give a message to the audience. You guys can... Watch. Yeah, you can't look. You can't look. You can't look. Okay? So this is developed by Amy Cuddy. And she did research on 45 people. And she divided them equal into groups. Part of the group did a low power pose, like huddling up, clasping their hands in front of them. And the other part did a strong power pose. Keep erect. There you go. And what she found was the people who were in the power pose, they've had elevated levels of testosterone. And testosterone is the hormone that's associated with confidence. And they had lower levels of cortisol. Cortisol is a fight or flight. It's when you're being chased by a lion and you got to get out of there, right? Your muscles are tense, you're stressed out. And that's a cortisol, the flight hormone. So she found that cortisol was reduced. But people who had closed poses were holding their hands like this. They actually increased levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and reduced the levels of testosterone. And the people that actually, she also gave them a test where she gave them $2 each. And they either had a choice to roll the dice and make $4 or keep their $2. And the people that were in the power poses, yeah, look, he's shaking his head. Yeah, give me that dice, man, I want to roll. So look at their eyes now. That's what I was telling them. Are their eyes shining more? Yeah. Look at their eyes. They're smiling more. This is the key. These poses not only change the way people see you, they change the way you feel about yourself. And if you don't believe this, go ahead, but don't do it. But I guarantee you one thing, that you shouldn't go in to an interview, sit in the office, and play with your cell phone. Because that's a closed position, and you're increasing your cortisol, reducing your testosterone. Breathe. Practice breathing. Practice Tai Chi, Qigong breathing, or whatever you do. Some kind of meditation. Okay, you guys can relax now. Thank you very much. Let's give them a big hand. So now we've had about an hour. We'll have 5 minutes for. Do you have 5 minutes for questions? 10 minutes for questions?
It's up to you. Question in the break, whatever.
Do you think we have some time? Does anyone have any questions? Thing?
I think for the postures, don't you have to think about sometimes depend on what you're doing? For example, if you're a teacher, you're rigid and standing there, and then you're not going to create you're creating the distance from you and the teacher. But if you're the dancer and then you present yourself in very graceful ways, I think that's the.
Oh, okay. Excellent question. Did everyone hear the question? She asked, well, if you're, a student or a teacher and you're teaching to students and you come across, as big and strong, aren't you going to be imposing and come across as aggressive, maybe even frighten the students? Whereas one of the things you could do is maybe act more like a dancer, elegant, and that kind of thing. What you want to do is a straight up pose, but be elegant like a dancer. And there's nothing that's threatening about this. This isn't a domineering. Remember, it has to work together in harmony. Your face, you have to have your eyebrows, smile, and your shoulders back. Does it feel like I'm being imposing or dominant right now? We're just talking. We're communicating. And that's what this is about. That's what this is about, is establishing a relationship.
I think it's important to note also that those poses that he gave you here, this is not what you do when you're in front of people.
Oh yeah.
This is not what you do when you're when you're talking to someone. I mean, really, you're not going to talk to someone like that.
That's a good point.
This is something that you do for yourself.
Right.
When you're by yourself.
Exactly.
All right. There's a lot of things that I do to warm up before speaking to an audience, particularly today when my allergies are going crazy. But there's a lot of things that you can do, like those power poses, that make you feel confident to go forward. But it's not to be used with other people.
Right. I'm sorry. That's a excellent point. So what she recommends is that you, before a big interview, that you go into the bathroom and you do a power pose.
And you may meet the president. You never know.
Yes, that's it. And you hold it 1 to 2 minutes before the meeting. That's all that she found. She found that's all that's needed. And there's one other piece of information too that I forgot to give you. The last part of this experiment was she actually made videos. She had these students interviewed, right? And in the video, she asked a third party to come in and observe. And she asked them to pick which people were the most confident. And without a doubt, the people who had assumed the power pose were judged to be the most confident of all of them. And these people who were watching the video had no idea what was going on. So it comes through even in videos when you don't really understand what's going on. So yeah, don't stand like this in a class, assuming the Wonder Woman pose when you have a bunch of students and be intimidated. But especially if you have a tough class or you have a tough day ahead, you can go into the bathroom and assume a power pose, get erect, have an erect posture, and then go into your class with more confidence to deal with the students. Good question. Yes, in the back.
Do you have any comment about, I heard about if you have a female and a male candidate, even
Be aggressive anyway. I mean, that goes, Carl may have some comments, but that, in my opinion, that goes to the sugar cookie. Were you here when I gave the sugar cookie story? Okay, the sugar cookie is basically these recruits in the Navy SEALs are sent down to the beach. Okay, and sometimes things just aren't going to work, but at least the person that's evaluating you is not evaluating you because they think you lack confidence. There may be something else that changes their mind about you, but it's not because you're coming across as lacking confidence, you're coming across as being meek and not the kind of person that they feel is confident enough to do the position.
Yeah, I just want to add to that because I've hired a lot of people in my time. The attitudes that you're speaking about are disappearing. This is old style. It's Mad Men on TV, right? It's there are a few dinosaurs left out there, but for the most part, when you're hiring somebody, you want someone who's confident, who's going to be good at their job, and that's what you are displaying when you have confidence that you're going to be good at what you do, and that's what I want when I'm hiring someone. All right?
Yes,
I have
that
one
guy.
comment for all the ladies. Don't be too aggressive. There's no room for men anymore.
So the dinosaur class. No, he's absolutely right, and in that it's the difference that I spoke about a little while ago. The difference between confidence and aggressive. Nobody likes someone who's aggressive in any situation, man or woman. I don't care. But confidence, that's a whole different thing.
And any more questions? Yes, go on.
Like when you talk to someone, you like to have some bottle of glass, a bottle of wine or something in your hand. So that could be a way to have something in your hand. So you don't need to think about where should I put my hand.
Huh.
So do you have any comments on that?
That's why I smoked for about 15 years. And I think that's why a lot of people smoke. Also, I know speakers who, even though we have all kinds of technology now with lapel mics and over the ear and all that, like Patricia Fripp, one of the best, most successful speakers in America, she has to have one of these because she doesn't know what to do with her hands. Okay. So she finds a way to deal with it. What you don't want to do is do something like take your glasses and start playing with them. I mean, it has to be something that is stationary and stable, not to be played with.
Right. To answer your question? Colton?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to take about a 10-minute break. Does that work? Does that give you time?
So when you go to the bathroom, okay, before we start the next one, I want to say I have an opportunity to thank you for several people here. One is Justin. Justin's always helped us to control the internet. We have about 10 people online. If you have a family and they couldn't come here, and we have internet as well. It's not as good as here in class, obviously not. And but it works. So Jennifer is the one to control that people have to answer questions and not really just leave them alone. Second one on this is thanks for I'm sorry, Sam, right? No, try it again. Jim. Jim. I know that. And Chris. And where's the captain? Roger?
He's hiding.
He's hiding. Roger. Roger is the captain for the whole family. He's father of those two. They are taking the video and the camera and so forth, so on. Thank you very much. Let's see who else I'm missing that. We want to thank you. And Jennifer, yes, Jennifer is doing the registration. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Okay, so this is from the farm.
Hey, Jennifer.
So I handed this to you, to you, to you, to you.
Honey,
You guys
let's
can-
go.
Carl.
All right. Now, we've done a lot of work for that first hour talking about how you can be seen to have confidence. But that's not the same as having confidence, is it? And that's the important part. If you're going to get to looking like you have confidence. Let's see, are we right at the beginning here?
Yeah, somehow it popped back.
It popped back. Okay.
Let me, you want to, wait,
I think it'll come up anyway. Go ahead. In the meantime, you all got a little handout from me here. Keep hold of that, because these exercises, and we're going to go over them here, these exercises are things that you can do every day. Some of them you can do in your car. When I'm going to speak somewhere, there are many of these exercises I will do in the car. And the guy next to me at the stoplight thinks I'm crazy, but I don't care. Because it really does help. And before we go any further, I do also want to apologize for my allergies today. The pollen in the air is making me nuts, and so if I have to, I have water over there and all that. So when we talk about having confidence, there, basically, I'm going to move forward just a little bit here. There are 3 stages to being a confident speaker. And the first stage is the focus on yourself. That's where most people are at. You're wondering, what do I look like? What do I sound like? And that's a confidence builder if you can accomplish that, if you can master that. So voice is going to be one of the most important parts of that, right? You want to sound good. You want to look good, too. You want to sound good. So we've put down a couple of things here that are important, that register with people. First of all, register. A lot of women, and you know, my wife is Filipino, and it's so funny. She'll talk to me normally, the phone rings, and suddenly it's, hello? And I think that's an Asian thing, where women want to go into those very high registers. And it's actually not a confidence builder in the other person or in yourself. Again, this is a holdover from past times. And when I was at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, one of the, of course, voice was one of the things that we worked on a lot. And with the ladies, it was getting them to speak down in the lower registers into their chest so they could be heard, for one thing. So that's one of the things that you want to work on. We'll work on that with some exercises that are on that sheet that I gave you. And timbre. And that's the way the voice feels. A nice, smooth voice. Think, I don't know, what's his name? The voice of God in all the movies.
I forget too.
Freeman. Yeah.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman. Right? He's the voice of God, right? and because he has that beautiful, beautiful voice. That's timbre. Think of that. And then there's prosody, which is the music in your voice. It's very hard to listen to someone who speaks like this all the time, and it's very hard to follow what they're saying because they're just one note. All right? Right. So there is a music in how we speak, and we want to be able to use our voice to produce that music. It's much easier. It's actually much easier to follow what the person is saying. It really is. Pace. You want to keep a good pace. I was booking a flight on Delta the other day on the phone, and the woman on the other end, God bless her, she was very helpful, but she spoke like this. And I had to keep from getting angry. I mean, it was actually very annoying. But then again, you don't want to have somebody speak like this all the time either, because you can't catch what they're saying, right? So we want to have a little difference in there. So sometimes it is quite appropriate to speak quickly. Sometimes it's not. And of course, one of the big things about pace, and the thing that most people are really afraid of, silence. The pause. And yet it is the pause that gives importance to what you say. Break it apart from everything else. So these are all parts of how to. Once you master these things, believe me, it's like following a path. You will have a structure which will give you confidence, knowing that you're having impact. And then finally, volume. We've sort of touched on that as to whether it's aggressive or passionate, but there's also the other side. Sometimes when you really want to have impact, go quiet. Because that's so different from everything else that people suddenly have to lean in and listen to you. Very important. I watched the debates. I don't know if you people watched the debate last night. It was a shameful event. Everybody screaming, everybody talking over the other person, and it was all meaningless to anybody watching. If there was one person, I won't mention him because I don't want to get into politics here, but there was one person there who just spoke. He just spoke and he was the one you listened to because he was different from everybody else who was screaming and yelling. It was amazing. Watch these debates, actually. Watch them. Not for the politics, but watch who has impact, who has confidence. There's another one up there who needs a serious injection of confidence. And you can see each person how they're different and learn a lot from them. All right. So the path to speaking, it's the 3 phases. I'll just mention them real quickly here. There's the focus on the self. How do I look? How do I sound? Then there's the focus on content. Once you master this, focus on self, then you can master your content. I'll go over that with you. And then finally, the focus on the listeners. That's the highest level of speaking that actually a lot of people never achieve. But you want to. And I'm not talking about speaking in front of an audience or a group. All of this relates to speaking one-on-one. I mean, this does apply to speaking to audiences, but it also applies to speaking to people one-on-one. And that's what you want to get to, so that even if you are speaking to a group or an audience, everyone feels like you're talking just to them. All right? And for a business presentation or a sales pitch, this is very powerful. It makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so we're going to do some exercises now. These are going to help you loosen up your body. Do these every day, and then you will be able to achieve the postures that Vernon was talking about. You'll be able to do it with ease and naturally. It'll just come naturally to you. But it does take doing it for a long period of time. Just keep doing it every day, just a few minutes every day. So everybody stand, please. Move into an open area in the room. Watch out for any cables here. All right? Okay. Yeah. There you go. Great. Okay. Now, looking at your, take your sheet with you. I should have said that. Sorry. Or at least have it near you. Okay. We're going to start with what I call the extremity shakeout. Can you hold that for just a second?
I can.
Very simple. All you're going to do is take your hands and shake them like this. Get the blood flowing. All right? And you do this 10, 15 seconds. Then do your legs. You can only do one at a time. Don't anyone try. I don't want to see any of that now. Okay? If you need to hold on to something, do it. Do the other leg. Although if anyone can do two at once, I do want to see that. All right, that's the extremity shakeout. All right? This is, seriously, if you just do this before you go in to talk to people, sometimes that's all you need, just to loosen up a little bit. All right. Are we blocking the camera over there?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Great. All right. Then we've got the extremity throwaway. It's sort of the same thing, but not quite. What you're going to do is throw a hand away. Just throw it away and make it nice and loose and floppy on the end there. Not how you do a handshake, but just that. And the other one now, just throw that away. And then we're going to do it with the feet as well. You're just going to throw a foot away. If you're really doing it right, what I have often seen is that for the ladies, shoes will fly across the room. That means you're really relaxed. And we'll do it with the other one. I've had to duck shoes on occasion. All right. Now the next one. The shoulder roll. Almost all the tension that we accumulate every day is right up here in the neck and shoulders. And you see a lot of people with clenched shoulders. Vernon was talking about that. Also, since so much of us work at a desk with a computer, what's the position we're normally in? Right? And so we need to get all of that tension out of there. So we just roll the shoulders, gently roll. Oh boy, that feels good. I needed that. Okay. And roll the shoulders, and then roll them the other way. You may be hearing some pops in there. Don't worry, that's just gas being released from the muscles. The tension puts that in there. So nothing to worry about. All right. Then we've got the neck roll. This is where you'll hear a lot of music going on in your neck. Seriously. And in fact, many times when people start doing this, it hurts a little bit. So be very careful with this. Be very gentle. But boy, this is where everything is. And the way you do it, just watch me now, is to drop your head forward. Just drop it. And then gently, gently roll it to one side. And you'll probably hear all kinds of snap, crackle, and pop going on in there. Most people do. Try not to raise your shoulders while you're doing it. Keep your hands at your side, your shoulders relaxed, and then roll the other way. And the important thing also, when you go to the back, watch this. When you go to the back, let your jaw drop open. That way you know you're really, really relaxed. All right, now that one takes a little work. It really does. So definitely focus on that for a while, but be careful. Next, the ragdoll. Okay, this one I'm going to have to show you first. All right? And the ragdoll is very simply, you're going to drop your head, and then you're going to take your spine apart, vertebra by vertebra, and just let it drop. And with your arms hanging forward loosely, you're going to go all the way down as far as you can. Don't push anything. All right? So now let's see you do it. Just drop your head forward, slowly, 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 vertebra by vertebra as you just drop forward. Okay, now slowly bring it back up, vertebra by vertebra. Now the way you check on this one, and you'll get to where this will happen, is when you're at the bottom. Try it. Go ahead. Just Yep, just slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay. Now you want to make sure that your arms are nice and loose, right? I can shake them, and then make sure that the head is just hanging right off of the neck. Just now, and it takes work to do that. It takes work. That's not easy. So if I were to just do that, her head, yeah, well, yeah, there you go. All right. You're putting a little effort into it there. All right. Come back up now. All right. No, but seriously, you want to get to the point so that when you're down there, it all just goes naturally. Okay? And eventually you will get there. Don't feel bad if you can't get there yet. All right? All right. Now the next one, the open chimney. Now we're going to start working on the things that affect your voice. And one of the things that you want to do is have nice posture. All right? I'll give you a little exercise for that in just a minute, which you'll understand why you're doing it. Let your head fall back and your jaw drop open. Breathe through your mouth. What you want to get is the sensation of a straight chimney going right up, and feel the air coming right into your lungs in a straight line. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, very good. Now roll your head forward again, and this is how you check to make sure that your posture is correct. And that is, imagine yourself, we are taught from children all the wrong ways to stand. Okay? Our PE teachers and everybody else, they have it wrong. Because they teach us to chest out, stomach in, erect, right? Okay, you can achieve the same thing, but with a completely different manner. And just imagine the back of your head, the top back of your head, just imagine it suspended from the ceiling on a cable, and you're hanging there. Just imagine that. All right? What will happen when you practice this, and actually this will happen pretty quickly, what will happen, drop the shoulders, let the back top of the head be where you are suspended from. You will naturally fall into place. Your body's actually built to stand like that. Your shoulder blades will start dropping like Vernon was talking about, and it will all happen naturally and in a relaxed manner. Whenever I'm about to speak, when I'm walking up to the front, that's what I do. I imagine the back of my head suspended from the ceiling as I'm walking up. And then I'm putting absolutely no effort into having a correct posture. None whatsoever. I am relaxed. This you can achieve very, very quickly. Actually, this is a good one. Now, cheek. Of course, you know sound comes through the mouth. At least the sounds we want to hear. And what you want to do is have everything all loose up here. Because here's the other place that we put our tension and nerves into the jaw and into this area of the face. You're doing it exactly right. What you want to do is just blow your cheeks out. Now, for me, that just feels so good to stretch that out. It's kind of like, stretching in the morning. All right, good. Now, the next one is the jaw manipulation. This is to make sure that your jaw, now this is hard. This is really hard. This will take a while. And that is to reach the point where you can be so relaxed, particularly here. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this, but I'm going to give you a big warning on it. what you're going to do is relax your jaw and be able to move it up and down, never to the side. Okay, never ever to the side. But move it up and down with your hand. No help from your jaw muscles at all. And slap your teeth together there. It is difficult to achieve that where you're not using your muscles here. But when you do, your mouth is going to be able to create the sounds that you want because it's relaxed. We have a lot of resonators in our head. Sinuses, open spaces in our head. Some people have more open space than others. But that's where the sound is created. That's what creates the timbre. That beautiful sound that we all want. It's the spaces in your chest and the spaces in your head. And if the muscles are clenched, it's kind of like when you ring a bell and then put your hand on it, it stops it. And that's what clenched muscles do up here. It stops that sound. All right. The next one is the tongue roll. Obviously, the tongue gets really important in speech, doesn't it? So what we're going to do is just like brush the front of your teeth with your tongue. And then do it the other way. You'll probably be able to do it very easily in one direction and not so easily in the other direction. That's what normally happens. That means that it's a little tight there. All right, so you want to do that. And then finally, and don't be afraid here, what you want to do is put the tip of your tongue behind your bottom teeth and roll it forward, like that. Don't be afraid to look silly. I look silly all the time. Okay, and then put the tip of your tongue behind your top teeth and do the same thing. Roll it out. Some people do this really, really well right at first. Others, yeah, that's one of their tension areas. If you're having trouble with it, that means do it. You need it. Okay? Lip manipulation. All right, and that's just simply, and here you're going to look really, really silly. All right, but don't be afraid. Do it at home. I do it in the car. I love seeing people's reactions. But just make your face really, really wide, and then so wide, closed, and then do that quickly. Very good. Very good. A lot of you are looking absolutely ridiculous. Thank you. But remember, I look ridiculous. Okay, there you go. And we're not afraid of that. And then, what's the buzz? And that is to do, basically, a raspberry with your lips. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with that one. It's kind of like a horse, right? This does several things. This is actually surprisingly important. It not only verifies that your lips are relaxed so that they can move properly, and you will get a lot of Americans who will talk like this because their tongue is really stuck and their lips don't move. And you'll particularly in New England, you'll get a lot of people that talk through their teeth like that. That's what we're trying to avoid. But not only does that verify that your lips are open and free, but it gets the blood flowing in them. You can feel it, right? All right, good. Now, move to the other page. This is the stuff now that we've been working up towards. When you can master these, you are going to feel when you're speaking to one-on-one, to groups, you are going to feel such confidence in your voice. When I was training as a student at the Royal Academy, I could sit on a couch, on a sofa, and another person on the sofa would go like that. They were feeling the vibrations going through the sofa when I spoke, because I was working on it all day, every day. And it made a great voice. We didn't have microphones in those days, so if we were doing a play in a 2,000-seat theater, the guy in the back row, he paid his money, he had to hear it too. And we didn't have wireless microphones then. All right, so vowels. You all know the vowels, right? A, E, I, O, U. Just begin doing that, only really exaggerate it. So you're going to go A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. What happens is A is very open. A, E, we get a little more closed. E, I, we go open again, but the tongue is doing different things. So I, and then O, and U. We're really pushing the lips forward finally. So you get this progression from open to a little closed, the tongue moving forward, and then finally opening up again, and then going with the lips going very, very forward. So it's actually a pretty good workout for all parts of the mouth. A, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, U. And then there's consonants. And this is where Americans are really falling down. We're getting a lot of people who talk like this now in America, particularly in California. We kind of like talk like that. And I can't understand what they're saying. I really can't. And so consonants, they're very, don't be like these people that are doing that. So just work with things like ka, da, ba, fa, ga, ma, na. That's a good one because it's nice and open. It goes from perfectly closed to wide open. Ma and na. Pa, ta, sa. I'll let you in on something. When I was young, I had a stutter that I could barely get through a sentence. Barely. And to this day, if I get really, really tired, I'll start stuttering again. However, what I do now, again, every time before I speak, to make sure I don't do that, is to work through the consonants here. Because where do stutterers get hung up? S's, the dreaded S, and ta, and all those consonants, that's where we get, and as Judy Carter likes to say, she's a comedian, she says, how dare they take stutterers and call it stutter? They can't say it. Diaphragm check. All right. Contrary to popular belief, you do not breathe from your lungs. All right? You don't. You breathe from here. That's your diaphragm. And your diaphragm is a muscle that pulls the lungs and pushes them. That's how the lungs have no muscles. The diaphragm is what makes it happen. And we're all taught, and in our age of beauty and youth and all of that, that we keep our stomach in, suck your stomach in, which of course completely paralyzes your diaphragm. Don't be afraid to let your stomach go loose a little bit so that you can breathe properly. When you breathe, if your hand is moving on your chest, you're breathing wrong. This is where all the movement should happen. again, I was taught, when I was young, make your chest big, make your chest small. That is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. And if you want to produce the right volume, and if you want people to hear you, it's all from here. It's from the diaphragm. The open throat sound. Ah. 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 One of the reasons most operas are written in Italian, because the Italian has a lot of ah sounds, and they can produce the musical notes. So ah. And if you do this regularly, you're going to feel what I'm feeling right now. When I go ah, I'm feeling vibration up into here. I'm feeling it into here. Those are my resonators. Ah, ah. So when you see actors and singers do these crazy things, it's because that's what produces the sound. Now, what I did a little bit earlier with a twist. What we want you to do is a scale, up and down the musical scale. Ladies, this will get you into the lower registers. Men, it will get you into the higher registers so that you have much more flexibility in your voice. So what we're going to do is just go, Again, when you're nice and loose and everything's working properly, you should feel vibrations on your lips there. It should be forward, right on your lips. Now we're going to open it up. We're going to go from the closed to the open ah. So we're going to go and hopefully you'll get to the point where you can actually feel your teeth rattling a little bit on that. It actually happens. And then finally, let's try this. So you really get the feeling. Do the open chimney. All right? Breathe in. And then say, ah. One more time. Feel the open chimney. Ah. Now this time, halfway through, slowly roll your head forward, but keep that open feeling, that open chimney. All right? So, ah. Now close your lips and go, If we do it correctly, you're going to really feel the vibrations on your lips. You really are. What that means is your voice is going out that way, which is where you want it to go. You don't want it to get lost in your head. All right. So, these very simple exercises, all of them are there on that sheet that I gave you. Spend 10 minutes a day. Do them. I'm not kidding. It will make a big difference on how you sound. And when you start feeling those vibrations, it's weird, but it gives you confidence. It really does. You know that you've got a good sound going. Okay, everybody can go ahead and sit down now. Now the other way to be totally confident, to add on to it, this is phase 2, and that's focus on content. Know what you're saying. I mean, that sounds simple, but it's not. It actually takes work. If you're giving a presentation, you need, and of course in business you will, whether you're a salesperson or an IT person, which I was for 24 years, you need to know what you're talking about. And that doesn't mean that you're dumb or intelligent or anything like that. It means organizing it. It means practicing it. It means being familiar with what's going to come out of your mouth. You know the way that I stopped stuttering? I made the incredible decision at about 7 years old. I lost my mind and decided I wanted to be an actor. Somebody who can barely get a sentence out wants to be an actor. Here's the funny thing. If you memorize lines, I never stuttered. Never did. And I was able, by memorizing lines, to be able to train my mouth to make the sounds without stuttering. It's the same thing as far as having confidence to know what you're going to say next. It's really important. So does anybody have a sales pitch or anything that they would like to try out on us here? Would anybody like to just tell us who they are and what they do? Come on up, somebody. Come on. Just tell us who you are and what you do. Come, I know you'll always go for it, won't you? Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. You're willing to do it. That's great. All right. So just tell us who you are and what do you do.
Oh, I'm Mason Tam. I work at Raytheon as an electrical engineer. I do RF, communication stuff, hardware engineer.
Okay. Why?
Because I love engineering, I love hardware, and I need money. So. I bring home the money.
What do you do for the greater good?
Well, I help out the country.
How?
By designing hardware that would help out in terms of communication and electronics, and it's helping the country and
All right.
the community.
All right. Now, all I did was ask just a couple of questions. Why? How? What are you doing for the greater good? You want to ask yourself those questions and any other appropriate questions when you're thinking of what you're going to say. Real simple. This is not hard. But if you ask yourself those questions, make notes, write them down. For instance, you've heard of the elevator speech, right? Which is basically what I just asked you to do. It's you're going to go 5 floors with another person in an elevator, and they go, "Hey, what do you do?" And you're gonna sell yourself. You're gonna give them a sales pitch on what you do. All right. So let's try this again. Remember the questions I asked you, and you gave very good answers, by the way. Just use that material and tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, I'm Mason Tam, and I work at Raytheon Company, and I do RF electronics, and I'm an RF engineer, and I love hardware, and I love working for the company, and I bring a lot of money home. Well, not a lot, but to me.
Okay. All right. Now, this was better, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he sound a little more confident?
Yeah.
Would he be a little more confident if he didn't have his hands behind his back? All right. One more time. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, I'm Mason Tam. I work for Raytheon Company, and I'm an RF engineer, and I do electronics, and we'll build hardware for the community, for defense industry, and I love it, and it's for the good of the country, and I can bring home some money.
All right. Good. All right. Thank you. Give him a hand. I tell you, you work on that for 5 or 10 minutes, and you are going to have a great elevator speech. It's not hard. It's just having confidence that you know what you're going to say. If you're doing a longer presentation, obviously it's a lot more work. I do a 90-minute to 2-hour presentation twice a day as I travel around the country. Now, that has evolved over years, frankly, over like 4 years. We have evolved that presentation from what was originally a 15-minute presentation. And so that has taken a lot of work. but I'm very confident in what I'm saying because I've said it 100 times in the last year. So focus on content. Get really familiar with what you're going to say. And if you're just talking to somebody conversationally, don't go off into the tall grass. Not unless you know the person really, really well. Keep to what you know. Keep to what you're confident in. Yeah.
What do you mean tall grass?
Go off into areas you don't know that much about. Right? Yeah. If you do that, then you're a politician. All right. Then you got a whole new career, right? Okay, and then finally, this is the, there we go. This is what you want to achieve. This is it, right here. Focus on listeners, because you know you look good and you sound good. You have the proper posture, you use gestures properly, you don't have your hands in your pocket, you're not closed up, and your voice. You know that they're going to hear you, you know that they're going to understand what you're saying. But here's the hard one. This is the one that very few people ever achieve. And that is being able, once you have this down, now you just get to play with whoever you're talking to, whether it's a group or an individual. You focus on them. And here's a neat little key to conversations and meetings. Shut up. Listen. Once you listen to the other person, and you're all talking to me right now. There's a conversation going on here. You're not saying anything. But I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your bodies. There is a conversation going on. And if I'm listening to it properly, I can meet you where you're at and be talking to you, to your concerns and to your issues. So it's not just listening with your ears, though that's very important. Also listening with your eyes. That's one of the reasons why eye contact is so important, because we do speak with our eyes. Our mouths can say completely different things, but the eyes very rarely lie. And then you know where the person is at. Listen to it, watch it. Vernon mentioned something about mirroring earlier, if you remember, that if the person's leaning forward, you can lean forward. If the person's leaning back, don't lean forward. There's an energy level also, and if you're listening to the people you're talking to, and you want to persuade them, isn't that really what this is about? We want to speak with confidence, so we have the power of persuasion. Okay? But in order to do that, and every good salesperson knows this, you have to go to their energy level first. If they have a low energy, you don't come on, hey, how you doing? Let's go. You have to meet them where they're at. And then you raise them to where you want them to be. And that is, maybe right there is the whole power of persuasion. Being able to meet people on their level and bring them to yours. When you do that, you will persuade. And what is one of the most important things? I mean, the studies show it. It's so important. What is the most important thing to be able to persuade people? Yeah, it's real simple.
They have to trust you.
Yeah, they have to like you. It's real simple. They have to like you. Likability is the most important thing. So what's the quickest way to get somebody to like you? Find similarities. So they've done tests just to show you how simple it is. They did a test where they brought in people, sat them down in desks. Now, half of the people in the room were part of the test, and they knew what they were doing, but the other people did not know what was happening. And what they did is just have them fill out forms. And one of the things on the form was, what's your birthday? And what the people who were planted there would do is look over at the person next to them and see what their birthday was. Then the interviewer would come in and begin asking them questions, and somewhere in there would ask, "What's your birthday?" And the person who was in on it would speak up first. You know, they would say the exact same birthday as the person that they were testing. They found that when they did that, here's what they would do at the end. They would ask the test subject, the one that didn't know what was going on, would you help her? Would you read a paper that she's doing? It's 8 pages long, and could you give her a page of written feedback on it? What they found is the ones where they didn't do the birthday trick, about 1 out of 3 said, "Yeah, okay, I'll help." The ones where they did the birthday trick, more than double that, said, "Yes, I will help," because they had an affinity, just because they had the same birthday. It's amazing. One other test that they did is they would bring in people, and there was a person that was making a pitch for a charity, and they had a poster of a person on it. And what they would do is sometimes they would name the person on the poster the same name as the person sitting in the room. Say, Susan, right? And they called her Susan. Then other times, the person doing the presenting was Susan. And other times, they didn't do Susan at all. And then they would ask them, what can they contribute? Now, these were students, so they don't have a lot of money. Here's what they found. For the people that got Susan on the poster, and that was their name too, they gave, on average, 89 cents. For people who there was no name involved at all, on average, they gave $1. And for the people where the presenter was Susan, they gave $2.07. Amazing. And it just shows how that kind of asking questions, listening to the answers, making sure that you make that connection and getting that affinity with the people that you're talking to, you will have the confidence in knowing that you have knowledge. You're armed, and you can influence that person just with simple little tools like this. You know where they're at. You know how to create the affinity with them. Here we go. There we go. So, write this down. These 3 stages. These are where you need to go. Focus on the self. That's where you're at now, probably. Most people are. Focus on content. That's a pretty good speaker. That's a pretty good speaker. And then focus on listeners. That's the ultimate. Because now you're talking their language. Right? Are there any questions? No questions. Come on, there's got to be questions. No? All right. Duncan. I know you.
Can I add something too, really?
Sure, absolutely. Bring it up.
One of the things we discussed at the end, I forgot to mention, is that if you want to practice this, go to Meetup and look for networking events. And one of the great...
Yes.
And go out and network with people. And do it so you get practice doing this stuff before you're in a serious situation. I mean, always try to do it well in case you meet someone, the president of Disney at a meetup. But the second thing, Toastmasters is really good, because Toastmasters, you get up and give a speech. Then they have what's called table topics. And the table topics people, the table topics master gets up and chooses some kind of arbitrary subject and gives it to you, and you have to talk about it for 2 minutes, just like Mason was doing. He has to get up and stand and talk. And you also learn to evaluate people, but on top of that, you have a chance to meet people, practice your handshakes, and get evaluations. Get evaluations in a place where people are taught to evaluate you in a positive form that's going to help you. So that's something I highly recommend. Also, you can meditate. There's a big movement right now using meditation to help with business confidence.
And what he's saying is so true. There have been two big events in my life that make me who I am today. And that is, first of all, when I was 7 years old, I walked into a movie theater and saw Lawrence of Arabia, and I wanted to be Peter O'Toole. Right? And that took me on a whole career path. And then, in 2005, I joined a Toastmasters club. I was a director of IT, and after several years in Toastmasters, I thought, I could do this. And I stopped being a director of IT, and I now speak. That's what I really wanted to do. And Toastmasters has been the place where I learned every single thing we've been talking about today. Every single thing that Vernon talked about, everything that I talked about, you can practice on a regular basis in a Toastmasters club. I don't know any organization like that. So look in your neighborhood. It's real easy. Go online. They're there. We've got several members in the room as well. But this is where you will get all the confidence you'll ever need. Seriously. All right.
I just want to make my comment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
All
want
right.
this
You don't
one.
need that. You need this one. Go ahead. Talk into that one.
Sure.
There you go.
First one, I learned that Carl talked about the your face movement. If you go to the internet, if you want to take a class, reduce your accent from, the Chinese accent, and they will teach you move your face first. I'm not kidding. You go to that internet, you search for that one. Particularly the lady name is called Barbara, and she will tell you exactly what you're doing here. So what you taught us here is exactly the people learning how to speak correct English.
Great.
That's what's good. That's number one. Number two, as a Toastmaster, Carl is the one that kind of inspired me to join the Toastmaster. And I listened to his speech a couple of times, and it's really good. So I said, I want to be there. But it took me maybe not 10 years to be there. But I'm working on that right now. And I'm sure if I work hard, I'll be there as well. But another 10 or 15 years, I'll be there, Carl. Just watch out.
Hey, I've been there for 11 years. So.
And the third thing is, I think that this is a very, very valuable lesson to myself. I feel more comfortable right now to come to you guys before I started at the beginning of this seminar here. So I want to share my thoughts, my experience with you, and I'm glad you are here. And we let me give a round of applause here. Any more questions?
I have a question. So my question is about focus on listener.
Yes.
For example, if I'm the salesperson, I could do chit chat to understand probably the background or need of my customer. However, after that, I will have assumption, and probably I couldn't control myself to my customer based on my assumption. So I don't know how to reduce this situation because.
So your question, if I can understand it, is you're making an assumption about your customer that turns out maybe it's not true.
Yeah.
Their face is going to be telling you that. Their eyes are going to be telling you that. Yeah, let me repeat that. If you're listening to them with your eyes and your ears, they're going to tell you that you're off track. Okay? That's where that gets so important because, like I said, there's this conversation going on even when they're not talking. It's still going on.
That's also a valuable part of Toastmasters because you learn how to listen too.
Yeah.
You being a counter evaluator, you have to evaluate speeches. You learn how to listen also.
Did that answer your question?
No,
No,
I think my question is a little.
Okay, explain it to me. Yeah.
So, okay, my question is, for example, I usually have assumption to someone because I understand him per minute through cheat sheet, right?
A cheat sheet. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cheat sheet, small talk.
Right.
Yeah,
Or chit chat.
yeah, chit chat.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, chit chat. So I understand. I understand a little bit, and then I have assumption. However, when the conversation continues, I probably would just throw my pitches to him or to her.
Right.
Just based on my assumption.
Right. Okay. And
Can I control
you know, I'm going to give you much the same answer, because what we all do very often, we decide, oh, this person thinks this, and I need to do this, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep moving in that direction, even though the person is telling us, no, no, no. But we've made up our mind, and we're just going to keep motoring on. There comes a point where, as I say, if you're listening, if you're watching, they're telling you, and that's when you stop and you say, wait a minute, and you start asking questions to get you back on their track, which is where you need to be, on their track. Right. Yeah, get on their track, because if you're not, you're not going to pull them onto yours. It's not going to happen. All right? It's a great question, by the way. Very nice.
Yeah, actually, I think we all have the experience. And someone calling during the dinner time and say, I'm not trying to sell you something, I just have something, right? Obviously, within a few seconds, you say, okay, I'm not interested. You didn't even listen to the stories, whatever. So I just think just be a good salesperson for me is not like you recite all this script to the audience. It's really you have to emphasize the quality, whether how much. You may say very little things, but you can impress the people and let them to
And ask
like you.
questions.
Yeah, and then you can get your stuff sold.
You're absolutely right.
Everything you from the script and reading and writing, and you immediately shut it out. This is my experience.
No, you're absolutely right. And that comes right back to you get those phone calls, and they have as you say, they have a script. And by the way, they've been told you do not deviate from that script.
Yeah,
And they get into
stop
trouble.
Wait, listen,
Right?
I'm not finished.
Yes, right. Right. It's not very effective, is it?
No, that's the thing. It's not the whole
Yeah.
long haul short. It's just that when the moment they open the mic, I'm not selling
Yeah.
it. I will really hang up.
Exactly. No, it's a perfect example of someone not listening to you. Yes, Judy.
Well, I also want to remind you as you fill out your evaluation forms that you may also hire either Vernon or Carl or both of them to come to your business or to a group of people that you want to get together with, and they'll do this presentation for you for a small fee.
Not that small.
That's up to the organization. That's up to the situation. We can talk offline about that. All right.
Okay, thank you
Anything
very
else?
much, Carl.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You're willing to stay a little bit longer?
Of
after
course.
this program, maybe after the next program, then you can stay
Yeah.
there. I appreciate it very much. The last part, and it's not the least part, it's a very important part of the area, so it gives me about 4 minutes here. Not try to sell you next program, which I will. And since I'm going to listen to this later, I'm not trying to sell it anymore. And I want to introduce a very special guest of this program, a very good friend of mine, Charlene. Charlene, come here. I need to talk. See you so I can introduce you. Okay. So Charlene has I put down her file,
You need some
okay,
help?
on your chair, and you can read it yourself at a leisure time. I'm not going over that. But I'm going to tell you a story about Charlene. I know Charlene since 2008. And it may not be the story she wants to, you guys to know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And she's working with Jet Propulsion Laboratory. She's currently is an electronics department manager. There's about 125 people, maybe growing. And that department produces all the electronics fly to Mars. and fly to Jupiter, even around the Earth. That's her job. And so my life depends on her. If she doesn't feel the good, she doesn't come home. There's nothing I can do about it. So I set up to her. And in 2008, I know you for many years. And Charlene is very, very good in the business side, very, I won't say aggressive, but she's really on schedule, on budget. First time I saw her was one of the mission called the Aquarius mission. And the small lady, you know, like Charlene here, and in front of our review woman, I was a review woman. I said, who's that Chinese girl here? What she's doing here? And then I've listened to her for 30 seconds. I said, wait a minute, she has right to be there. She told us how her schedule is, how her budget is. We $25,000 spec project. That's unusual for jet propulsion laboratory. Usually we go over that. Go over the 100%. That's minimum. So the reason I want her to be here is two reasons. One, she just produced a book. This I cannot pronounce it very well, but let her handle that part. And it's about her life, about her history, about her story from Vietnam. Right? Whole boat. She's one of the people on the boat. So I let her talk about that. Second part is she's just been nominated to represent the District 49 to be the Woman of the Year. So she's going to Sacramento to receive the award for Woman of the Year. Then I talked to her a little bit. She said, isn't it just one step closer to the White House? I said, no. Charlene, slow down a little bit. Maybe 2 steps, but okay. So here's Charlene.
Hey, should we put this on too? Put it during the talk.
Okay. Thank you. Like Dan Kai said, I met him about 2004. Actually, before, my last name was Lords, before I got changed my name to Ang. And he thought it was going to be an American lady, Charlene Lords. When he saw me, he's like, who's that Chinese girl? And that's how I remember. It's like, what do you mean? What's that? Because he didn't realize that he was saying it out loud. That's our introduction. Anyway, it's been an honor to be here. Dan Kai has been so inspiring. He, spent a lot of energy on helping young people, helping organizations like this, and every chance he get, he would pull me along and push me along. And I'm here because of his energy and his guidance. We have, yesterday I'm on the paper, the World Journal paper, and that's also Dan Kai's support. We were at one of the function, second page. We were at one of the function, just supporting the women in power. He saw a reporter and he said, hey, you have to go talk to this lady because she got nominated. And this guy asked me, what are you being nominated for? And I said, who are you again? He said, Dan Kai asked me to come and talk to you. So I learned to just kind of embrace the energy from Dan Kai. And even the speech here, he didn't tell me I was going to be on. But I'm ready for anything. So for a few minutes here, I want to talk a little bit about what I do at JPL, and also after the book, one of the some of the responses that I got, and where you can get a hold of me or follow what the progress I'm making. Like Dan Kai said, I'm the section manager for JPL. My section is doing all the electronics for all the missions. That means that anything that fly has to come through our department. It's a pretty big responsibility. The other part of my section is we're doing all the technical services for the lab. So having not only doing design for a certain project, but have that responsibility is very big. Also, being a female, being an Asian female with my background as a refugee, at JPL we have a lot of smart people. I would say 95% men and very few women. And not only having minority women as a manager, all the meetings I go to are mostly men, and I'm just used to it. Growing up, when I went back to Vietnam and talked to some of my neighbors and stuff like that, they weren't surprised I become an engineer, because even as a kid, I surrounded myself with brothers and cousins, and doing things like engineering is like what I would be interested in instead of dolls. So, for me, being where I am, it's so amazing. Like what you were saying earlier, what do you love about your job? The fact that going to Mars or even orbiting Earth, anything that's on the spacecraft, it's touched by my department. And one of the things I would tell my people is that we gave birth to electronics. Before we do that, it's just a thought, it's just a design, it's just a paper. But for us to give birth to electronics, that was very exciting. But I want to talk a little bit about my book and why I started that. And as a Chinese Hakka and as a Chinese person, when I told my family about writing my book, their first response is that, you don't want to tell our dirty secret, or you don't want to share our pain. When I first started, when I talked to my sister and brothers, they said, sure, go ahead and write a book. But when I got done and showed them the proof, they totally against it. They said, we're not supported, we'll disown you if you're going to release it. And I remember my oldest brother had this serious conversation with me. And being raised in the United States now, I came when I was 13. I remember thinking, it's part of the Chinese culture to be respectful to your elder or to your brothers. But I was telling him, I'm thinking, I'm close to 50. I'm not the little girl anymore, and this is my product. Because my dad passed away and he's supposed to be the eldest. And I calmly told him, I said, if you don't like what I put in here, recommend what I take out. But not publishing it is not an option. So we worked through it, we talked through it, and here it is with the book. One of the things that I got from the book after it's published, the responses that I got back, either people send me email personally to tell me how they're touched by it, or review on Amazon, or emails to me, So then, I think for me, living in this story or this part of the story, it took me a long time to face it. When I start going through the journey and writing the book, it made me realize, and being here too, I was in your position one time when I first came, when I was in the 20s, when I first started. And to be where I am today, to be one of the top managers, it's in the newspaper and people who heard about the story, they told me, you made it. You have achieved your American dream. For me, for years, I just work hard and trying to get, not so much move up, but do everything that I can in whatever I do, because my parents sacrificed all their wealth and even our life to come to the U.S., to come, to leave Vietnam. So to have that mindset, but to get the responses from people, their reaction, that really surprised me. And I think a lot of it, like I said, being Asian, is like, it's really hard for me to share my pain. And when people who read it would say, I can totally feel, they would even tear up, because it took me 25 years of hanging on to these negative energy, because I actually would feel, even though I'm successful, before the book, I would feel like I'm not the same as you guys. You came because you have money, and your parents are smart, or your parents have money to send you to the U.S. We came as refugee. Part of the three phrases I learned in English, it's begging for food. Sir, give me water. Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm hungry. Give me food. Imagine when you learn your English, what were the phrases that you learned? Those were the first three phrases that I learned. When I realized, and through Dan Kai's modeling, is that when I start talking to high school students about my story, and I remember this one talk, two teenagers at this talk about engineering, they talked to each other and they said, you know what? We can be engineers too. If she didn't know how to speak English at age 13, and she can be a department manager at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. We can do it too. We're born here. We just need to work harder. To hear that, and to have the mom came over and thanked me to have a good example for them, and to show that they too can achieve the dream. So for me, I want to thank Dan Kai, and I want to thank having this opportunity to come and talk to you. What's for me, this nomination to be Woman of the Year, it's totally blown my mind. I mean, I didn't write the book to think that I'm going to be famous or I'm going to be anything. I didn't even want to publish it. Through my two teenagers, they're not I guess they're younger and they have this new attitude of sharing everything online, right? What I eat today, what happened to me. But being an older generation, it's like that's no one else's business except yours. But through their encouragement of sharing it, to receiving, it took a long time to get to that point. But to be inspiring by so many people and to be selected for District 49 as Woman of the Year and going to Sacramento to accept the award, I'm still in shock. I think the day come when I'm actually walk down to get my award. I just hope that I breathe and do these exercises so I don't pass out. Anyways, you can follow me from my Facebook page, Charlene Linong, or my Hakka Girl page. The other thing is I have a hakkagirl.net website that you can, follow what's going on. And it has been this year, 2016, has been blazing. I'm so blessed. We started out the new year being on TV, on G&E, and radio. And then I was on the San Marino Tribune paper. Then now I'm on World Journal, and I'm going to go to the Sacramento. I'm pretty sure that day is very huge for Women of the Month and Women History Month, that there's probably going to be TV stations and newspaper. It just blew my mind. My one last thing is my friend asked me, how's all these fame change you? And I said to her, it doesn't really change me. I'm still the same person. Now there's more people know about me. And she thought, that's true. To me is that this, my really whole goal is that if I can inspire like this kid, then I already achieved my goal. And then also to talk about, that exercise that we did and say we fail. To me, this book is like saying, you know what, I'm alive and I'm a human. I'm not only having good things, but there's part of me, the loss, the pain, the suffering, that's also part of me. To embrace that and to face that. And there's a lot of people can't face it. And so the book already giving me so much more, and if it give to other people too, that my father who passed away would be very proud of me. Thank you. Before I end, I would like to give these books, donate these books to these great volunteers today, spending their energy and their important day, Valentine's Day, to be with us instead of at home or with their spouses. Like Judy said, if we're going to invite them to our company, we probably can't afford it. For them to donate their time here, we're very lucky to have their time. So I would like to, it's not in the order of important, I just wrote them all here. I would like to give this to Roger. Not that one. Can you help us? Roger, this is for you.
Oh,
Tell me you are very happy, Roger.
I am very happy.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you. And the second one is for Judy. I know Denkai mentioned that Judy spent a lot of time helping him on this project of. Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Thank you, Judy. Give me a smile. Too. Good.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, our two speaker, Vernon.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
For coming here. And
Okay. see you smile. I cannot see you at all.
If I smile anymore, you won't see my eyes. Carl, thank you so much. I already learned so much from your exercises.
Well, thank you.
And since I'm going to do an audiobook, I'm going to need to practice that a lot.
There you go.
All right, thank
There you
you.
go.
Carol, invite her to the Toastmaster right now.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very
Just
much.
one more book here. Is it for me?
Being an engineer, being prepared, that I want to bring.
I need to meet you as a friend. You know, really different from you. I came to US and then got a 2 master degree. My daughter just graduated from Yale University, but one day fell down. She met a musician, a white guy, and now she just she just said, oh, I just want to see more. I told her, as a person living in the world, the most important is love and responsibility. And it's okay you want to see more, but you should take your responsibility. But now I don't know what should I do. I need to really about send my daughter.
You want to take a picture?
Yeah.
I'll sign it for you.
Yeah, because now, yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I need to talk.
Thank you for listening to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
just 1 minute. I know I'm
Thank
over.
you.
I learned from Carl. Which was up. There you go. Okay, so we're going to bring you one. Our next seminar is March 16th, right? Somewhere in that there? 13th. 13th. No, not 13th. March 16th. That's a read.
I thought March 13. Sunday, March 13.
Okay, Carl's right.
Because
as usual.
Monday is March 14. That's when I get my award.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, please come again here. I'd love to have you again.
Oh, what's your Facebook? I want to.
Let me sign it for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
What's your name?
Jennifer from.
Right? And I told my daughter that his son is right, so I told my daughter, we'll do that sometimes later. So I encourage everybody just write down what you
It's my
have
daughter's
learned from
name.
Carl, one of your speech.
It's Michelle Huang.
Okay, give you the things you have in your mind, the things you learned, and
I will
let's
send
share.
to her.
Make it
Let her
more-
read.
That's all.
HUNG.
More better, you know, like easier, and good for everybody else. Thank you again for joining us.
Evaluations.
Oh, evaluation, right, that's a feedback, that's important, the feedback for everybody, so we know how to improve ourselves. I mean, Carl and everyone, they know how to improve themselves. Okay, I think that's it, right, and thank you again for coming. We still have some food in the back here, you are welcome to stay and talk to our speaker.